Hey, Wrangler 4xe fans. I did an experiment yesterday that I wanted to share the numbers that I came away with and kind of talk about gas mileage, MPGs, as they are given to us in the Wrangler 4xe. We've talked about it in previous videos and a lot in posts about how MPG is kind of a weird number in the Wrangler 4xe. It's kind of like a dirty number, because it doesn't figure in the energy used from your battery. It doesn't figure that energy source. It just figures miles traveled, and then figures out about how much gas you've been using, and it just kind of gives you a number. So one thing that I think is really good to talk about is that MPG is not always MPG. It's kind of a weird thing. And one of the things that we do a lot in the group that's kind of I don't want to say it's risky, but we compare MPG figures, and it's really difficult in a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle because everybody's case uses are different. So don't get discouraged if somebody says, hey, I'm getting this, and you're like, oh, I'm only seeing this. Don't get discouraged, because use that number to compete against yourself. Don't use that number to compete against other people. Now, if your thing is getting like 10 miles a gallon, then yeah, there's probably some issue there you need to have looked at. But if I just want to encourage you in that. I don't know where I was wanting to go with that. I just want to encourage you to not really do a lot of comparing to other people. But I wanted to also talk about an experiment I did yesterday where I figured miles per gallon at the gas pump. One thing I have found in the Wrangler 4xe is that when we're having these conversations about miles per gallon, I always want to ask, how are you deriving that number? Where are you getting that number from? Are you getting it from, screen 5? Are you getting it from screen 7, from your trip odometer, from your averages, whatever? So in this video, everything I'm talking about, I actually figure my gas mileage at the pump. I use an app called Fuely. And so I always track my fill ups. Every time I fill up, I plug in the numbers and see what it comes up with. And I wanted to share an interesting experiment that I did yesterday, and the results of it really were telling about how well this system can work even when it's malfunctioning. Right now, my Wrangler 4xe needs the electric heater thing replaced. So I am stuck in what's called, what it shows on the screen is electric mode unavailable, cabin heating and cooling. It's a known issue that some Jeeps are dealing with, and some Chrysler Pacifica hybrid minivans are also dealing with the same issue because they use the same part. And so while I'm waiting on that, I'm able to do some experiments because the vehicle is forced into like a blended hybrid mode that we don't have the option to make it go into this mode all the time. So I'm able to use this as an opportunity to do some really cool experiments. I actually filled up this vehicle 3 times yesterday. The first time, my battery was at like 98%, and I stopped at a gas station. I was getting on the highway, and I was going to go for about 60 miles. And I wanted to see if I could see what the blended hybrid, and when I say blended, if you take your shifter and pull it over to the left in the manual mode, you will force the Jeep into like a blended hybrid mode. It's still using the electric side, and it's a hybrid. I say a lot, the Wrangler 4xe is always a hybrid. It will run the gas engine, and it will use the electric motor to provide propulsion for the whole system. So I ended up, you'll see on your screen right now, I ended up on a fill up where I went about 70 miles. And what I did is I waited until I saw the less than 1% come up on the screen, and then I filled up, because I had filled up at the beginning when I was about 98%. And then I filled up when it hit less than 1%, and I went about 70 miles. And my fuel efficiency tracking at the gas pump was 33.4 miles to the gallon. Now, again, that's a weird number because we can't track the electrical energy used, but that's what I achieved. So imagine roughly 15 kilowatts of energy and however many gallons of gas I used for that fill up, which I forget what it was, but I ended up at 33.4 miles a gallon. Now, on the screen, on the trip odometer, it said I got 29.4. So there's a difference of 4 miles a gallon in the negative from what I really achieved by tracking it at the gas pump. So then I drove another, I think it was 47 miles to get back home. And like I said, I filled up when the battery was at less than 1%. And I drove 47 miles and filled up again. Again, I do this stuff as experiments to see what's going on. And in straight hybrid mode, without any real juice in the battery. Now, we know the battery always has some juice, but I wasn't taking that part that's above the less than 1% point. This was at the less than 1% point, so we know that's about 15% that the battery holds and the system works to maintain. So it's in a true hybrid mode at that point. And I went 47 miles and ended up with 19.1 miles a gallon. So a difference, and on the screen it said I got 21.9. So it's something to consider when we're talking about what our fuel mileage is, that we also talk about our case use, but also talk about where we're getting our number, because I have found repeatedly that the little calculator in the Jeep can be off in either direction. Now, 4 miles a gallon in the negative, that's the most I've ever seen. It's usually 2 to 3 mile a gallon different, but I just wanted to share that as kind of a cool exploration into what the vehicle can do, and also talk about forcing that vehicle into a blended hybrid mode. You know, a lot of people that don't have a 20-mile drive to work, some people that have a 50, 60-mile drive to work, have been experimenting with putting the vehicle in the forced hybrid mode by pulling the shifter over to manual. And my numbers reflect what a lot of their numbers reflect, as they're getting in the 30 mile a gallon. And now there's a conversation to be had there of net energy and how that really works out. Does it really work out ahead or behind? I don't know. I have an experiment model in my head that's going to be very time consuming, and I just haven't done it, and I've been wanting to do it for months. So I did get 19.1. I am in a Sahara hardtop running boards, but I am running KO2s, the 33-inch Rubicon takeoff wheels, and it was cold, it was snowy, it was icy, it was nasty. So 19.1 is very reasonable, I think, in those circumstances and all the situations going on around there. So just wanted to share all that information, and thanks for watching. Take care.